All right, welcome to the next episode of the Success Mindset podcast. I am excited about today's episode. First, how the tables have turned, Mr. Tran. We get to have you on the mic instead of behind the camera. But I'm excited about today's episode. Really, first of all, celebrating you guys and the contribution you've made to Think 3D as you guys are both getting ready to take these next steps in your careers and your lives. Really unpacking a little bit about your journey with Think 3D as people have seen our growth, our journey. Want to get some of your guys' perspective personally, what you've seen within the business and how you think about life differently a little bit. So I'll be tossing you guys some questions and getting some perspective on that.
Sounds good.
But first for me, success, the best definition I've ever heard of success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And so I want to take back, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Tran, because you were number 4 to the team, right? So we started off with a couple guys in a room.
I'm an OG.
Added Mr. Dan Card, and then summer of 2020, all of a sudden we said, hey, we want to expand. We had this beautiful studio space that we were trying to step into, and timing was right, and you joined the team. So just share a little bit, in the last couple of years almost, how has your perspective of, culture, life just grown in general? What's your broad view of how you've grown as a person and how you view the world in the last few years?
Yeah. I'm going to give some preface that I've been around you guys, though, since 2018,
Yes.
technically. Just a young buck, straight out of college, had no idea what I was doing. So I've been around you guys when you guys were in a tiny corner of someone else's office space.
Mm-hmm.
So to see the growth in the business in the last 4 years, it's been crazy. It's been absolutely crazy to see it. And, it was one of those things like I was already stargazed. I was like, oh, man, these guys they're saying some really cool stuff already. But I was still a little too young to really appreciate it and understand it, where I think starting to work here and being around you guys all the time, my perspective on a lot of things of just like ways of approaching life and ways of approaching people and what it truly means to like have a real company culture that is so far beyond like what we always talk about. Like, it's not the fiscal things, it's not the ping pong table in the break room. It's letting your employees know that they're listened to and that they're cared for based on what their needs actually are, like what fulfills their cup.
Yeah.
So coming out of this is like, I know like going forward, like I can't not be a better version of myself.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I know that your voice is going to ring in my head every time I don't want to do something. I'm going to hear success lies on the other side of I don't feel like it, or like, just say you're okay with being average today, bro. You know what I mean? I'll be like, God damn it, get out of my head. Like, I'm going to go do it now. But like, yeah. So it's I couldn't imagine not having been here, because it was like, I think it's been quintessential. It's like my success and like who I'm going to be as like a dad and a business owner, and just like for myself, like truly believing in myself for once versus like believing everybody else's idea.
Yeah, I've appreciated that, seeing your growth, obviously giving yourself credit and permission to know that you're capable of more. Obviously, you know the talent, those type of things, but it's okay to step in and spend time for yourself, which you really haven't, because you've really been in the last year, obviously running 2 full-time jobs, working here, building your business and stuff like that. And even if not in your head, you definitely hear from your wife. Are you okay being average?
Oh my God.
Get up. So I love that you got that perspective at home. Bri, you joined us in January of 21. So share a little bit. Again, we always talk about the soil process. What are you soaking in? What are some things that you soaked in the last year, almost year and a half, riding alongside of us? You were number 5 to the team. So Tommy's number 4. You were number 5. What's some things that you've soaked in over the last year and a half?
So much. It's hard to know where to start. So when I started, I also jumped into the Leaders of Tomorrow program right away. So I think that was the biggest thing. I had previously worked for myself for like 5 years. I had been single, have recently married. So a lot of it had been what my like success meant just to me, myself, and I didn't have to account that for anybody else. And so then I jumped into this incredible team and a family that I was now also accountable to. And so that was the biggest thing for me, is just the accountability beyond myself of what that impact can look like. And how success for me isn't just defined on my personal success. It's about the success of people around me. And again, that included the team, that included my stepdaughter, that included my husband. So that's been cool to see my mind expand just beyond what I was doing personally. And just knowing what a workplace can and should feel like. I had purposely worked for myself for a while after coming out of a pretty bad work experience. So that's been cool too, just knowing what support from leadership can look like and having fun with the team can look like. I mean, we have more fun than just about anywhere I've ever been. So the growth has come in lots of different ways personally, whether that's in my mind, spiritually, all sorts of ways.
Yeah, it's really good. I think life is about that journey, and we realize obviously there's work to be done, and by any means, we're not perfect, but we're willing to grow, right? And that's a lot of people see the stuff we're doing in the community, they see the organizations we're working with, and they don't realize the behind the scenes. Before we got on camera, we were talking about doing one of our graduations where Bri's setting it up, doing the things, running audio because we were just double booked, and it's been, obviously where we're at today is by and large because of the team that we've had, and really appreciate you guys being a part of that journey. I want to go to that next letter in the soil process, observation, right? I say oftentimes in training, it's probably the most underutilized thing available to us, and people just don't observe what's happening in society around us, right? And culture's been this buzzword for this last decade, obviously, and we talk about it at a much different clip, a much more personal clip, why every single person should be invested into it. Obviously, we have our core saying a culture will emerge whether intended or not, but if it's not when you invest in it, it's when you pay for. As you guys think about just observing the world around you, now that you've had this elevated perspective of, obviously we are a growing company, our growing culture, but obviously how we train culture, how are you observing the world differently within your friend groups, within our community, maybe within some close people, how culture really does impact people differently, not seeing it from this lens? That's a question for both of you. So whoever wants to go first.
You want to go first?
I can go first. I remember one of the experiences that I remember very vividly. It was after CultureCon last year, and we were all driving to a restaurant. We were all going to celebrate afterwards, and you texted me. You were driving in front of me, and we were at a red light. Don't worry, everyone. And you texted me. You're like, gosh, look at all these people in their cars. They just look like they just had a really bad day at work. And I just remember thinking, like, I think I had a lot of those days. And now I know, like, before I go home or on my drive home, I get to reset that. Like, if it was a hard day, or usually it's not a hard day, like, I'm usually going home happy and fulfilled from this job, but how many people aren't? And so I just remember that moment of the impact that culture does make. And especially after that day, I think everyone leaving CultureCon that day was not the unhappy ones in their car. They were the ones, like, so excited to go home and tell somebody about what they experienced. And I've seen it just the way I go home. Like, you talk about your driveway days all the time and what that looks like. Like, am I coming home the best version of me? And I've seen what it's done just to my family, and I've heard from other people what it's done to their families, their friends. Speaking of friends too, I remember in LOT, we talk about if you have positive, negative, or neutral friends. And I think when I evaluated, most of them were probably in that neutral zone. I had maybe a few negative, but hardly any positive. And so that was a hard season of, even through LOT, people will either quit their jobs or break up or lose a lot of friends, but for good reasons, because they were taking from you or they weren't giving anything in any capacity. And so that was huge for me, just the way my community looks completely different since the day I started work here. Friends, family, everything has shifted because of the importance of culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. It's a mindset change. When you realize your friend groups, whether it's professional friends, personal friends, family, that like they're not all there for you, and they don't have anything to give you, whether intended or not intended, right? Whether good or bad. And it's understanding that like you have to still go by your own personal timeline. You want those friends that you've had your whole life, but then it's like they're so far behind. It's like, why you can't let them drag you back if you're on like the culture train, right? Like, we're going forward. Like if you're ready to go, you just got to go. You can't wait for your friends. If you're ready for the peak, you got to reach the summit. You know what I mean? That was probably an incorrect way of saying that, but you get the gist of it.
For sure.
And what I've really noticed a lot too is I've seen the friends that want to pour into myself and my family, and the friends that I after I hang out with them, these are the friends like, oh man, I want to keep pouring these guys. Like I want to spend more time with them is what I always say to them. Then I've had those friends where I'm like, yeah, it was a good time seeing them. But like, if I didn't see them for another 6 months, it's okay. You know, and I'm like, why am I wasting my time with that? You know what I mean? Like they can be the Facebook friends. Like, see, we kind of keep up here or there. Like, oh, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, but why am I not putting more time into the friends personally and professionally of like, these are the people I want to serve, that I know that how I serve them, they will serve me back the same, if not more, you know? So it's been crazy to think about that. And you do see those people that are dreading coming home from work, just exhausted, you know, just they're like, I want to sit in traffic. I don't want to go home because I need to recharge that. And it's crazy to think like there are ways for them to recharge. They just don't know it yet. They have to go through something like LOT to really be like, oh man, I do have those days like I'm not alone. So yeah, it's crazy. It's good stuff though.
I think, you know, and that a lot of folks in society, they struggle with that friend thing of I don't want to feel like I'm leaving somebody behind or these different things or what other people think about me. And it's amazing how many people to various degrees live their lives with the expectations of other people. And like we always say, a better you is better for everybody. But it really comes down to this value. Like when you really value yourself at a high enough level, I've never left anybody behind ever. People have chosen to stay. They know the value. And I think when you start to value yourself and then know the work that you've put in, like if you've done the work and you become a better version of yourself, you know you're coming into those conversations with more to offer. And so I'm not better than you. I just value my time. It's not a waste of time necessarily, but it's if you're not going to do anything with it, it's like, why are we having this conversation? Can I be challenged? You know? Right. And so it's valuing ourselves enough to say, again, time is finite, right? It is. You don't have enough time. Actually, I was thinking about just the other day, part of the speech I'll do at CultureCon, it's around sacrifice. You know, again, we're all sacrificing something. And this week I was at an event late 3 nights in a row. One of them was Snoop, so it's not like I was really working in that one. But again, 2 other events, so you're home late, and I'm sacrificing time with my family. And so then the other small slivers of time, if it's not valuable or doing something, I don't give enough time to my wife and the kids, right? So valuing ourselves differently in that space. One thing I challenge, even just at graduation this week, you know, I said, you know, you are your greatest asset, right? Invest like it. And everyone gets it. We understand that. What, as you think about that, what are some over the last year and a half, what are some of those intentional investments that you've made into yourselves? Because we talk about one of the key pillars of culture or dimensions of culture is personal, right? You have to invest in yourself. Now, obviously there's some of it that, you know, you guys hear a million times over because you're in the trainings, those type of things. But what intentionality have you had investing into yourself where you are clearly a better version of yourself today than you were when you first started here?
For me, absolutely, one of the biggest issues I had, especially coming out of college, was my communication skills. So I really struggled with conflict, and you know, it stems back to childhood, and you know, I love my parents, but it was always like it was their rules, right? Their house, their rules. So I never had a voice. So now as an adult, whenever I did get dealt with conflict, whether it's my own fault, whether it's someone else's fault, whether it's nobody's fault, but it's something we have to solve, I would shut down. I wouldn't know how to communicate, and I would just start mumbling. So one thing that I really took, especially in these last 2 years of being here, was like, okay, these are the guys that like know culture, they communicate well, like they can talk to anybody and get their message across. But one thing I learned is that you adjust the delivery of the message based on the person. So that's something I really tried to observe for myself, and like, okay, how can I do that? Because I know that it's going to benefit me one day, right? And then by doing that, I realized like, oh man, I'm kind of doing something for myself. Like I'm not doing this to like, oh, so I can like do better at my job. It's like, no, I want to be a better communicator. I want to do more. I want to be able to speak to people and have clarity when I speak. So it's definitely something that I've really soaked in these last couple of years of like, how do I communicate, and how do I communicate the message that I want to deliver the way that person wants to receive it. You know, what we always say was that message received the way it's delivered, or something like that.
It's not much sense. Message received.
There it is. Cash money. Yes.
Yeah, I would say there's another thing we talk about in LOT is selflessness through selfishness.
Yeah.
Well, that's a tongue twister. So that's been something that I have grown a ton in. I struggled with boundaries for a long time, where even with friends, I would just say yes to anyone that wanted to hang out. And I mean, part of that was being single and whatever. But working here, I've learned to say yes to the things that actually make me happy and I'm actually passionate about. And so I just remember even when I started, I was still in the phase of kind of saying yes to everything. And then we had so many community things going on here, work events going on here. So I was trying to do that and be married and be a new mom and do all of the things. And I just remember I was drained all the time. And it wasn't because I wasn't doing good things. I was just doing too many good things, but not the right things. And so that's been really huge. I feel like I am very clear now on what things get to take a place on my calendar and what things don't, whether that be friends, community events. And so that's helped me grow that friendship too with the people that actually are passionate about the same things. And most of the rooms I'm in now are all the people that care about the same things. I'm in, even being at the MB event last night. Those are a bunch of people that feel the same way I do about this community and want to do the same things I want to do. And I wasn't giving myself time to be in those rooms before because I was hanging out with neutral friends or spending time doing things by myself. So that's been huge for me, the taking care of myself so that I can truly give to those things.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I think a huge part of what's crazy, like we all know, we talk about vulnerability for a minute. We all gravitate towards those who are vulnerable because it says you're human. You're not trying to hide, because we know nobody's perfect. We know this inherently, but yet at the same token, we put up walls and we don't want to show our vulnerable side when that's a part of leadership for me. Like, and I'm trying to find even more of like being an open book to say like, this isn't all perfect. We'll never claim that Think 3D is perfect, right? We have our bumps and bruises and various things along the road. But again, I always challenge folks to say, you know, are you a better version of yourself? And so can you clearly say and articulate that better version? But along that, we all are works in progress, right? We all are work in progress. And so I'll go first with this one, but you guys can think about your answer to it. What is something that you know you have to work on, that you're still a work in progress, but obviously your confidence is there to push forward? What is something that you are wrestling with or still working on? For me, I'll say, you know, mine, even as I came home last night and I was planning out my weekend. Again, I don't like that word balance because we always talk against work-life integration, right? And it's just making sure that even amongst like my girls or my wife or the important people in your life, sometimes, because there's a million things that you can do that is good, am I making sure that I have the appropriate mix of those type of things, right? Again, I always say all the time, I want to be have a 5% marriage. For me to have a 5% marriage, I have to hold myself to the standard of being a 5% husband. And in that, I know at times I fall short of that. And there's not an excuse, because you can all have an excuse. There's 1,000,001 excuses, but no good reasons, right? And so that's something that just even hit me last night, and realizing all week long I've been home, wife's close to bedtime, those type of things. But that's, you know, I wrestle with that mixed with there's a million good things that you always can do. And especially as you guys know, there's so many issues in our community that need us, but my family needs me as well. So that's something that I personally just am wrestling with and working on, working in progress of finding that balance, if you would. That's my area. What's something that for you guys that you know that I'm a work in progress in this area of my life?
You got one?
I do have one.
Okay,
do you
go
not
for
have
it.
one?
I'm still brewing it.
Okay, you're brewing?
Yeah.
Okay. I can definitely attest to like what you're working through. That's definitely one of the things I'm working through too, as a dad with a 2-year-old and trying to be a husband, business owner, father, brother, son, grandson. Like, you know, a lot of that is just something that I need to work through as well. But what I've come to realize that all of that stress, all the anxiety of trying to like find a balance between all that and integration between all that is me setting too high of expectations on myself. You know, I think for a lot of people, we all set ourselves up for failure by expecting too much success out of us, right? And so for me, it's definitely like I need to recalibrate what it means to be successful, right? We talk about that of like, what is your definition of success? And one thing I've learned is I don't really have my own sense of success yet. But I have the sense of success is like, as a father, this is what it means to be successful. As a husband, this is what it means. As a business owner, this is what it means, right? But it's like, for just myself, what does that mean? And that's something that I think is going to be a journey, especially coming to this next year, this next phase of my life, that like is like, okay, what does it truly mean for Tommy Tran to be successful? Not Tommy the father, not Tommy the business owner, not Tommy the husband, not Tommy the son, brother. It's just Tommy Tran. Look at yourself in the mirror. What makes you happy? What makes you successful for yourself? You know, so that's something I'm going to really dive in deep to, especially, you know, when you're not working a regular full-time job. You know, you can take that time when it makes sense, when it's your optimal time, and like soak it in. Like, all right, let's sit down. Let's like write it out. Let's just go crazy with it, you know? And with that too, I'm just going to realize that, like, and listen to my wife a little bit more about, you know, she's always telling me like, oh, you're a good husband. You're a good dad. Like, don't worry about it. And I'm going to try to listen to her like 5-10% more. Like, okay. Like, I'll give you that one time, right? I did get you guys ice cream. You know, I'll take that. You know, I did break and let you have that. Yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely something I'm going to be working on and brewing on. And, I mean, a year from now is like, if I can see 5-10% improvement from that, that would be phenomenal. Even just one thing that's like, okay, this at least one thing I came up with is like, okay, I can do this. Like, I did this to be happy. Cool. Then we'll work on the next one and the next one and spend the rest of my life figuring it out. Love it.
I think mine's kind of like a weird mix of the two of them. I think a lot of it is balance, but a lot of it is also just self stuff. Having a family is hard when you also want to be in the community a lot, and being gone at night is hard. I felt the same thing this week. We were at a lot of the same events and stuff. And so her being sad that I wasn't there to tuck her in or whatever it is. But that plays into also figuring out who my identity is outside of those things has been weird, because my transitions, like from single to married to mom, and now I'm expecting a baby in August. Those all feel like really big identity changes, but not like my core identity. And I think I've let it dictate my core identity a little bit. And so just figuring out again, like, how do I stay true to what my passions are and bring that into being a mom, being a friend, being a business owner, being an employee. How do I bring all of those together? Because I mean, truly, I think I was selfish at first too. When I think most of us are when you get married or have kids for the first time. I just expected them to just come into my life and enjoy all of the things I enjoy. And you will just like the same things I do. And quickly learning that that's not always the case.
Very, very quickly.
Yes. Even our daughters played soccer against each other last night. I was very aggressive at 8 years old. She is dancing on the sidelines.
They were not.
Twirling her hair on the field. And so
she's not getting recruited.
Yes. So even things like that, just letting go of the selfishness of like, I also need to invest time in what she's interested in. She isn't naturally interested in the things that I am. And especially with the baby coming too, like, I will have to sacrifice some things, but it's for the good of this family. And also they'll have to sacrifice things to make sure I'm okay as a mom. And so, yeah, finding the balance of that is really hard. I think a lot of women feel that too, because we want to give. A lot of people want to give, but women specifically, I feel like our hearts are drawn to that. And so where do we draw the line and take care of ourselves at the same time?
Yeah, that's really good. Let's talk potential for a minute. Obviously, you guys have had a front row seat to what we've been able to accomplish as a team, as a business. You guys have a front row seat of, you know, the picture of what we're trying to accomplish in this community. Just from a potential side of it for Think 3D, just for a minute, what has you excited about what's been happening, where we're going as a community, the investments that we made? What gets you excited? Because you guys see where the downward impacts are happening 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. As you think about the city of Sioux Falls, what type of things are you looking forward to, or what potential do you see? Because obviously, even though you guys, as you're moving on to your own business and different opportunities, you obviously will still be a part of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
What type of things are you excited about that you say we had a hand in that? We see the momentum happening for the city of Sioux Falls in our community.
For me, it's definitely the things that we're doing, that this community is doing for the underserved population, with the whole soccer league that's going on and stuff. To be able to see something like that in an area that's not the glitz and glam, it's not like the nice, Yankton Trail areas. This is like a neighborhood, right? This is, it's like the kind of neighborhood like I grew up in, and I didn't have. There was nothing like that was ever around as a kid. We had to make our own entertainment on a Saturday and do whatever, which is just as important. But for these kids to have potential that one day could be a citywide event that it's like, cool, we can create rivalry, we can create camaraderie within our neighborhoods versus like everybody's kind of for themselves, right? It's like, no, like, oh man, like you're not gonna be able to make it to the game without a ride. Like we got you, like that's so important. I love that. Like we're diving deep into that, and like people genuinely see that, like, man, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
I get why we got to take care of these people, because there's some true talent out there. You know what I mean? There's talent, there's bright minds, and the hard part is that they're just in like unlucky areas, right? They're just in areas, they're not in areas of like high opportunity. Like you don't expect a kid that lives like on like Duluth, the downtown, right? In these old 100-year-old houses, like you don't expect them to like go out and do something big. You expect them to kind of stay within a mile of their home, right? Where they know. And then, the influence that they're around is like, no, there's some gems out there. We just have to be willing to dig in the dirt a little bit, And I appreciate that the city is really like, is finally willing to do that.
Yeah. Love it.
I think what I've grown to appreciate so much in my time here is because I think I've done a lot of nonprofit work. I've done a lot of community work, but I never had the connections to really make it any bigger than like 3 of us in a neighborhood wanting the kids to play soccer. And it never grew from that. And so what I've appreciated so much is seeing like the work that you guys have put in. It's been 10, 20, so many years of making these connections, and now like seeing it all come full circle. Like the soccer league that's happening is such a true example of that. The companies that are now a part of this and supporting this and seeing the real change that this is going to bring to our city, that this is revolutionary for what this could mean for these kids in these neighborhoods. That's something I'm so excited about. I think there's so many good things in the city happening that you wouldn't get to see unless you were in a role like this sometimes. And so that's been so cool for me, as I've been just trying to dig into as many different areas as I can. The community table talks, the soccer league, Leaders of Tomorrow. I was in the Leadership Sioux Falls program, like all these things that I wouldn't have probably known about or taken the time to research about. So yeah, the soccer league is one that I for sure want to stay involved in. The table talks. I already went through my calendar, and everything that we already have scheduled out is on my personal calendar. Like I will be there. So yeah, just the work it takes to make those happen, but then the good things that come from all that work. Like it takes time, it takes energy, and to get to be a part of those efforts has been so cool.
Yeah, good stuff happening. Let's switch to personal potential. As you, obviously, when we talk about the soil process, we look back, you see the growth that you've had over this last few years. As you look forward, what is the potential in front of you? What has you excited about this next chapter of your life? What the things that are on the horizon for you? What are some of the things that has you excited, gets you up out of bed, looking forward to what's ahead of you guys?
You want to take this one first?
Yeah, I can go first. So I am having a baby in August, which is so exciting. It's terrifying and exciting all at the same time. So I feel like I've gotten a chance to become a really good mom over the last year and a half of being a stepmom. And so I got to kind of skip the newborn years the first time around being stepmom. So I'm just excited for that. The ways that I've just been trying to talk to as many mom working friends as I can about how your patience has to grow, how so many things in you get to grow during that time. So I feel a little ahead of the game because I have a stepdaughter, but that is super exciting. And then in the next role I'll be in, there will be a little bit of flexibility. My family all lives kind of all over the place in Rapid City, Wyoming, kind of everywhere. So to be able to go see them and work from there for a few days at a time and things like that, to be able to continue to grow those relationships, those are super important to me. And so, that makes me really excited personally for that too. So lots of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the father of a 2-year-old toddler right now, who's a
Only
second
tell me good
child,
things.
who's a second child, but technically is the only kid right now. Acts wild, truly wild. I am not a patient person, but when you learn patience, it changes your perspective on the way they act and like understand the like, you know what, they do this and they can't do tantrums because they don't know how to communicate yet.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a parallel. I realized like there's a lot of adults that also don't know how to communicate their emotions, and which is why they throw tantrums.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a beautiful skill you're gonna learn. If you can handle a 2-year-old toddler who doesn't know what snack he wants in the morning, I think you're gonna be just fine. Like you're gonna be golden. You can talk
I'm
to
prepared.
anybody.
Yes.
So for me, this is really the first time ever that I've invested in myself and taken the chance on myself. You know, I've always been in a survival mindset. Like as a man, I gotta pay the bills, right? That's priority number one. I gotta feed my family. I gotta make sure my family's needs are met. I gotta make sure my brother's needs are met. I gotta make sure my son, I gotta make sure everybody else's needs are met, like work's met, like before I considered my own. And so by the time I get to myself, I've only ever had maybe 10% left to give to myself, you know. And that at that point, I'm like, so I'm gonna go to bed earlier. This is like that's my
That's
juice.
your reward.
Yeah.
Like cool, nice job. You can go to bed at like midnight, you know. So this is gonna be the first time where I'm really gonna invest in myself and being like, okay, like your future is wide open. What do you want to do, right? And knowing that I have such a strong support system, like shout out to my wife Lexi. You know, she's been yelling at me for a long time, like, I don't understand why you do all this stuff for us, but literally nothing for yourself. And it's like, I don't know how to do it for myself. And so I'm excited to go on that journey of like, how do I be selfish? And in turn, that becomes selfless behavior for everybody else around me, right? They're going to see me as a stronger, healthier person. They're going to see me as someone's like, dang, okay, he's winning out here. I feel his energy. Like he's radiating good energy.
Yeah.
I want that energy. I want that juice, right? I need the milk.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. And it really is I'm going up beyond shout out to Adam Steve. I'm not trying to survive, I'm trying to thrive. So that's, I'm excited. That's what I'm really excited for.
Yeah. I'm excited for you guys too. I mean, we talk about the real secret of success is found through self-discovery. And so taking that time to find yourself or redefine it, like life is about seasons, those type of things. Last general question is, we talk about success mindset. You guys hear me talk about it all the time. I don't put mindset as one word because it's just a thing. What's your mindset here? What's your mindset there? To set something is a verb, you know, as you guys think about your growth and your journey and success. Because again, a lot of people struggle. We talked about 95% of people don't have their own personal custom definition of success.
Right.
Therefore, if you don't know what it is to you, you'll never be successful. But a part of this is the journey, it's the process. What are some of the ways that you see yourself different today than you did before you started working here, that you're setting your mind with intention that will set you up for success or the journey that you're ahead of you? What are you doing to set your mind towards success on the journey ahead?
I think a big thing for me has intentionally figuring out what I really feel put here for. Like, what am I on this earth and in these roles and in these positions to do? Like, who and what am I supposed to be impacting? And I don't think I had ever intentionally done that. I just kind of did the things that sounded fun or sounded cool. And a lot of those times I ended up burnt out. And so this is the first time in this job that we are encouraged to take the time to figure that out and be intentional about that. And so success that way has just changed for me so much. Like, if I know those things, then what am I doing with that knowledge? So I've come to the point where, like, now I know who and what I am supposed to be impacting, where I'm supposed to be serving, and then I'm doing it. And I think I missed that last step for a long time. I maybe had the ideas in my head and you just don't do it. And so that's been huge for me, and encouraging others to do it now too. It's our CultureCon theme this year. Like, don't just have the idea, do it.
Yeah. Man, it's kind of tough. I think for me is like, before coming here, it was just like, I just want to do cool stuff. right? That was like all I had was like pay my bills and then do cool stuff in the meantime, right? But then I realized the difference is like, what's the difference between a passion and a hobby, right? You know, and then finding passion and truly in the things that you do. So like, I love doing videos. I love making videos, but like, it's not just the video part that like, that's like the hobby, right? That's like that's a fun technical thing to do. But I'm learning that the real passion behind what I do is it's the interactions with the people. It's the stories you get to hear, right? And the stories you get to tell from those conversations, right? It's like, man, we're going to make something magical together and it's going to have an impact. Whether it's literally, you know, we're just talking about new AI with one of our clients. We're like doing demonstration. I'm like, I would never have known about this. This is fascinating. Like there's so much I would have never been able to soak in and enjoy if I didn't do for video. So I appreciate for that. But really, it's like oh man, I get to learn about some cool stuff. I get to talk to cool people. And so, you know, it's like you said, and Jesus says it too, is like you guys are finding the reason you're put on this earth because you're put here for a reason, right? You like there's a purpose behind you being here. And I think I'm finding that purpose myself. And it's like beyond just doing the video stuff. I'm not just a video guy anymore, right? Like that's not my title. I'm a person who loves to learn and experience life. Yeah. So coming out of this is like, that's what I need to like strive for is like, how do I experience life? How do I get those conversations? How do I learn about those stories? And then how do I tell them in a compelling way? Well, I know how to do it through video, so I'm going to do it that way. But remembering that at the forefront of things, it's like you're trying to experience as much as you can before your time's up, you know? Granted, I'm Asian, so I'll probably live to like 95 or something. So I got time.
You got plenty of time.
You got time.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I love about it. I mean, again, both you guys being, you know, in your 20s, so much ahead of you and so much potential. And, you know, for most people, again, they say that one of the books I reference a lot is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And it said when he studied out the success of 500 of the most successful people over a 25-year period of time, the average age of when they started the career that made them successful, and that was just financial success predominantly, but it was in their 40s. So you guys having this jump start to say you're actively figuring it out now, again, what is ahead is exciting for me. And I think too, part of it for me is to just appreciate both your guys' character, because again, I think it says a lot of both ends of it, right? You know, both the time you came to us back in October and said, hey, I want to take this leap, you know, a little nervous about it. I'm like, you have it in you. Like you have your own business. You get to work with your wife every single day to build your own legacy in that space. And so I knew it was a win thing. And I was like, how long? And he's like, I'll get, 4 or 5 months, 6 months. You gave it some time, right? It says a lot about, because you could have said 2-week notice, right? And just left. But I think at the same token, you realize what we're trying to build here and didn't want to leave us out. Bree, the same thing. Again, there's nervous. It's like, I wasn't looking. Someone made an offer. And I'm like, no, this is about, we want to celebrate you guys, appreciate you guys for what you've contributed. You've been a part of this thing that we're trying to build. And, what we always said, Bonnie and myself, if anyone leaves, we want them to leave better. And I think clearly and presently, you guys have left better. Both come from the, obviously, culture we built, but your guys' contribution, it's been huge to that. So again, with that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely.
For those things. So as you guys know how we end these podcasts. Yes. We're going to the cards.
Oh, I thought we were doing hands in. I was like, I gotta go.
This might be the last ask.
Yes. The only time I might. Okay.
All right. You just get a different one, so we'll see who grabs the first one. There's a lot of pressure if you don't grab the first one because you're stuck with the second one.
All right. I'm a gambling man.
Okay.
So are you taking the first one or the second one?
This actually will be interesting if Tommy took this one.
All right, I'll take it.
Is crying a sign of weakness or strength?
Oh.
Where does it come from? Or where does your opinion on this come from?
Ooh, okay. So just for context, I'm not a person that cries a lot. I'm not a very emotional person, which is why this question is interesting. But I do have a good good view on crying, especially as a man. I think one of the most powerful tools a man or any person can have is the ability to tap into their emotions, right? And really, really soak into their emotions and like use that to, not as like to guide it, because obviously, when you make a decision off emotions, it's usually not the best decision, right? But there is those emotions, those feelings of like, oh man, it's heavy in my chest. Like, I just got to do this. Like, I believe in this, right? So, yeah, I think crying is good. Crying lets go of a lot of things. It's something I guess I'm working on, right? Is what does it mean how do I let go of my emotions and cry it out a little bit from here and there, like what that looks like. Yeah. So
I'm glad I didn't get that when I'm pregnant. So
yes,
I usually don't cry, but apparently now I do.
Yes.
So,
If you need,
I can't
to
answer
cry,
that one.
If you need to cry, let it go. Let it go. Like, it's good for you. Trust me.
Yes. All right. We're gonna go right here. Oh, this is the index card instructions.
Nice. Wow, you got lucky there.
I did. That means this is gonna be extra hard.
Yeah.
How are you pursuing the things you love?
Oh man. That is, I feel like I alluded to a lot of it, I guess, finding the parts of this community that do have such a piece of my heart and giving time to those. I also love family. And so having a baby, like that's a huge thing, is making a bigger family. And I love that. I love being a mom. I love being a wife. So that's fun. Also, I love sports. And so the soccer league, getting to be a part of that has been another thing I love. So pursuing that and helping that launch off in this community. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Cash money.
Well, good stuff. Any parting words from you?
Just thank you to you guys, too.
Yeah.
Like, I know you got to thank us, but that comes from both of us. I know, like, my time here has been absolutely invaluable and far more than I expected it to be. I kind of came in, we were 4 and 5, so I don't think either of us really knew what to expect, but it's been, I only have good things to say on my way out. So thank you for
absolutely
for letting us be here.
It's I've been talking to Lex about this. Like, it's a very bittersweet thing, right? Because it's like, I'm not leaving a bad culture. I'm not leaving bad people. I'm leaving good people, a good culture, good company with purpose, right? And it's like, dang. But I don't got a complaint though. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like it's knowing that, like, you guys would be more mad at us. They're like, well, why aren't you pursuing that? You know, like, why aren't you doing that thing? If you believe it, well, like, what have we told you? If you believe it, you got to do it. Yeah. You know. So it was more of like a dad moment of like, well, son, like, if you got to go, just go. Like, fly, little bird. You know what I mean? Like, tossing us out there, and it's like. But it's also this, like, God, I feel good though. Like, I feel confident that I can do this. Yeah. You know, like, the skills, the things I've learned, the people I've gotten to meet, is like, I'm a very different person than I was when I first came through those doors in this room that had a red wall. Shout out Vonnie for painting a red wall that looked like blood. And I mean, really, last thing is for all you out there, live your life, player.
Live your life, player. We'll go with that. Well, again,
Tommy's parting words.
Yeah. Parting word, live your life, player. Again, success is that progressive realization of a worthy ideal. You guys are either have it or redefining it. We always will redefine that. And so again, you guys are both a success in my eyes, and I'm excited about. Obviously, we'll stay connected because you're part of the LT community. So that's forever. So again, appreciate you guys, and we'll see everyone else on the next episode.
Peace.
All right. No hands in. Oh man. So I had 2 ponytails in, and about 3 minutes in, this one broke. Nice. I heard it, and I felt it. I was like, okay. All right. It is what it is. That was funny.